What if the very things you use to cope are the same things slowly destroying your soul? In this video, we dive deep into the silent war you didn't even know you were fighting, the war against yourself. Modern life has taught you to escape through productivity, endless scrolling, fake peace, and constant distraction. But what if all of that is just a way to repress what you truly feel? What if your soul is starving and you've mistaken numbness for strength? Inspired by the psychological depth of Carl Jung, the existential fire of Kierkegaard, and the prophetic insights of Aldous Huxley, this journey is not just intellectual, it's personal. This is for those who feel empty even when they're surrounded, tired even after rest, and disconnected even when they seem successful. You will discover why silence feels terrifying, and why that's exactly where your healing begins. How society conditions you to run from your emotions without realizing it. The hidden pain behind your hyperproductivity and your inability to stop. How distraction has become the modern mask for despair. And how to finally return to your true self, not by escaping, but by remembering. This is not another motivational video. This is a spiritual wake-up call for anyone brave enough to stop running, turn inward, and face the forgotten parts of themselves. Every word was crafted to speak directly to your pain, your past, and your potential. If this video speaks to your soul, don't watch it alone. Share it. Comment below. Say it out loud. I'm ready to return. And see who else has been silently waiting for the same thing. Have you ever wondered why you feel tired even when you've done nothing physically demanding? Why your soul feels drained even after a full night's sleep? Why there's a quiet, growing emptiness inside you, even though you're constantly surrounded by noise, content, people, and things to do? It's not just you. It's not your age. It's not even depression. It's the cost of a habit you've been conditioned to believe is harmless. Constant distraction. From the moment you wake up, the world offers you an escape. Your phone buzzes before you've even touched the floor. Notifications, news, messages, images. You scroll through timelines filled with noise disguised as relevance. Before you've even brushed your teeth, your mind has been pulled into 1,000 directions, and yet, you think you're in control. But what if you're not? What if this flood of stimuli, this endless chase for content, for connection, for productivity, isn't freedom, but a new form of slavery? Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And today that anything looks like harmless habits. Binge-watching another series, endlessly scrolling on social media, staying busy with to-do lists that never end. These aren't bad in themselves, but when they become your norm, when they become the way you fill every pause in your life, you're not just avoiding boredom, you're avoiding yourself. You are not designed to be plugged in all the time. Your nervous system wasn't built to absorb this much information, this much stimulation, this much expectation. But the modern world doesn't care. It keeps feeding you, distracting you, keeping you away from the one place that truly matters, within. Think about this. When was the last time you sat in silence, and not by accident but by choice? No phone, no TV, no background music, no podcast. Just you and your breath. Can you even remember? And if you tried it now, how long do you think it would take before the discomfort started to rise? 30 seconds? A minute? That discomfort is not boredom. That's the voice of your soul, the one that's been drowned out by years of constant stimulation. It's the ache of unresolved grief, unexpressed feelings, forgotten dreams. It's everything you haven't dealt with, trying to reach you. And every time you run from it, even through things that seem productive, you're pushing yourself further from wholeness. Aldous Huxley once warned that the future wouldn't be shaped by dictators, but by distractions. And he was right. We are not silenced by force anymore. We are silenced by pleasure, by convenience, by entertainment that dulls the edges of our pain just enough to keep us from ever asking why it's there in the first place. We are overstimulated, overconnected, and undernourished in the places that matter most. If this message reached a hidden part of you, write in the comments, "I'm done running. I choose presence." Let this be the first step of your return to yourself. You might say, "But I'm just staying informed. I'm staying connected with people. I'm being productive." That's what they want you to believe. Because as long as you're busy chasing likes, checking boxes, or numbing your anxiety with digital noise, you're not dangerous. You're manageable. You're disconnected from your deepest power, self-awareness. And here's where it hurts the most. Deep down, you know it. You feel it when you wake up and dread another day, when you finish a whole week of work and still feel like something's missing, when you're surrounded by people but feel completely alone. That's not failure. That's your soul knocking. You weren't born to be a machine. You weren't created to live in reaction mode. But the system has trained you to believe that silence is laziness, that stillness is weakness, that pausing is wasting time. And so, day by day, you escape into content, into routines, into tasks. You run from pain. You run from questions. You run from the mirror. But the soul is patient. It will wait for you, in the insomnia, in the tightness in your chest, in that sudden wave of sadness that has no name. Those aren't malfunctions. They are messages. Messages that you are not okay, that you are not present, that you are not living, only functioning. And that's the moment most people turn back. They grab their phone again, turn on the TV, get back to their endless tasks. Because staying with that pain, even for a few seconds, is terrifying. It threatens the illusion that everything is fine. But here's the secret no one tells you. Behind that terror, behind that silence, behind that ache, is your freedom. Freedom isn't comfort, it's clarity. And clarity only comes when you stop running and finally look, not at others, not at your goals, at yourself. The longer you avoid this, the more life feels like a performance. You start confusing busyness with purpose. You think that being occupied is the same as being fulfilled. But it's not. Because no matter how much you do, how much you consume, how much you achieve, the void remains. Because you've been escaping the only thing that could truly fill it, presence. Presence is not passive. It's revolutionary. In a world designed to steal your attention, being present is an act of rebellion. It's how you reclaim your soul from the machinery of distraction. So, if you've been feeling lost, anxious, disconnected, this is your call. Not to do more, but to stop, to pause, to feel, even if it hurts. Because that pain isn't your enemy. It's your way back. And once you start walking that path, slowly, tenderly, courageously, everything changes. But there's something you need to understand before you take the next step. The moment you stop distracting yourself, the truth begins to surface. And not everyone is ready for what comes next. Are you? Then let's go deeper. Because in the next part, we'll confront the wound you've spent your life trying to avoid, and how facing it might just save your soul. You spend most of your life trying to avoid pain. It's instinctive, natural. You avoid awkward silences. You avoid the thought that something in your life is off. You avoid moments when emotions rise up out of nowhere. You distract yourself. You justify. You keep moving. But what if I told you that everything you're trying to avoid, that tightness in your chest, the restlessness you can't name, the subtle sadness that hits you at night, is the exact place your healing is trying to happen? Carl Jung said that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. But the modern world taught you the opposite. It told you to suppress what hurts, to put on a smile, to push through. And so, you did. You became the strong one, the reliable one, the one who doesn't fall apart, even when you're barely holding yourself together inside. You've spent so many years building walls that even you forgot what's behind them. But those emotions you bury, they don't disappear. They wait. They wait in your body, in the tension in your shoulders, the headaches, the gut discomfort. They wait in your dreams. They wait in those moments when you're alone and suddenly overwhelmed. You might think you're running from the world, but you're actually running from yourself. Comment below, I reclaim my silence. Let the world know you're no longer afraid of the stillness, because within it, you finally found your truth. Kierkegaard, the father of existentialism, called this the sickness unto death. Not a literal death, but the soul's slow collapse when it's disconnected from truth. When you avoid your pain, you divide yourself. You create two versions of you, the one you show to the world and the one you've locked away. Over time, that inner self stops fighting, it stops speaking, and that silence becomes your suffering. How many times have you felt like something was wrong, but couldn't explain why? How many nights have you laid in bed feeling like there's something inside you trying to get out, but you don't have the words? That's not a random feeling. That's your real self knocking. Not to destroy you, but to save you. But to be saved, you have to stop resisting. And that's the most terrifying part. Because facing your truth means dismantling the image you've worked so hard to protect. It means admitting that some relationships are based on lies, that your version of success may be a cage, that your strength might just be unprocessed fear wearing armor. Think about how hard it is to sit with sadness without trying to fix it, or to feel anger without blaming someone, or to feel deep loneliness and not reach for your phone. That moment right there, that's the threshold. That's where the transformation begins. But very few cross it, because beyond that point, you're not who you used to be, and not yet who you're becoming. It's a space in between. It's uncomfortable, but it's sacred. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who had spent his entire life avoiding silence. He filled every moment with work, achievement, noise, and people. Everyone admired him. But every night when he was alone, a heaviness would settle in his chest. He didn't know what it was. He thought maybe it was stress, maybe exhaustion. He tried everything: exercise, therapy, success, even medication. Nothing worked. Until one day, he did something terrifying. He turned everything off. No phone, no books, no tasks. Just him, a quiet room, and time. At first it was unbearable. He wanted to scream. His hands shook. He paced the room. But eventually, something happened. The noise in his mind started to settle. Beneath the chaos, he heard a voice. His own. Not the voice he used in meetings. Not the voice he used with his family. The voice of a boy who had been silenced for decades. That boy didn't want success. He didn't want validation. He just wanted to be heard. And that's the moment everything changed. This isn't just a story. This is a mirror. Because you are that person. We all are. We build lives around us to escape what's inside us. But healing isn't about building. It's about returning. Returning to the place you left when you decided that your truth was too much for the world. Jung called this process individuation, becoming whole. Not perfect, not enlightened, whole. That means reclaiming the parts of you that you've rejected, abandoned, or buried. Your fear, your grief, your unmet needs, your shame. They are not the enemy. They are the map. They are pointing you toward what still needs love. And here's where it gets personal. You've probably lived through loss, betrayal, disappointment. Maybe people left when you needed them most. Maybe someone told you that your emotions were too much. Maybe you were never allowed to feel, to cry, to break. So you learned to shrink your soul into something socially acceptable. And now, as an adult, you're wondering why you feel hollow. It's because you traded authenticity for survival. But what saved you then is killing you now. And you can feel it. You can feel the inner split. The war between who you are and who you pretend to be. And this war doesn't end by trying harder. It ends by surrendering. By finally saying, enough. I'm ready to feel what I've been running from. And yes, it will hurt. Truth always does. But that pain isn't a punishment. It's an initiation. An initiation into a new kind of life. A life where you don't have to wear a mask. A life where you're not ruled by fear or validation or shame. A life where your soul gets to breathe again. But the only way out is through. And to go through, you must walk straight into what you've avoided the most. Yourself. So, before we go deeper, I need you to sit with one question. What have you been running from? Because in the next part, we'll uncover how the world around you was designed, intentionally, to keep you distracted. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Ready? Let's step into the empire of distraction and begin to take your soul back. You think you're free because no one is chaining your body. You think you're making choices because your fingers are the ones scrolling. You believe you're in control because you're the one deciding which app to open, which video to watch, which notification to tap. But if you stopped for a moment, if you really paused, you'd realize something deeply unsettling. You're not deciding. You're reacting. You're not living. You're being managed. And the most dangerous prison is the one that feels like freedom. Aldous Huxley foresaw this with chilling accuracy. In his book, Brave New World, he warned that the future wouldn't be a place of oppression through pain, but through pleasure. Not a dictatorship of force, but a dictatorship of distraction. And today we are living exactly what he predicted. The enemy isn't censorship, it's abundance. Abundance of noise, abundance of dopamine, abundance of shallow connection, all designed to keep you just numb enough not to ask real questions. Look around. You are surrounded by screens, algorithms, Content that's been optimized, curated, and engineered to hijack your attention. You don't choose to stay on your phone for 3 hours. You fall into it. Not because you're weak, but because these systems are built to override your mind. Each scroll is a hit of dopamine. Each like is a microdose of validation. And over time, this rewires your brain. Literally. The same neural pathways activated by drugs like cocaine are triggered by the pings of your phone. But this goes deeper than addiction. It's not just about the chemicals, it's about identity. You begin to mistake distraction for identity. You begin to define yourself by what you consume, what you watch, what you comment on, what you post. You think you're participating in life, but you're just reacting to an endless feed that was never made for your soul, only for your data. Think about how many hours you've lost not doing anything wrong, just existing online. Think about how many moments of potential presence have been traded for quick entertainment. How many silent evenings could have become breakthroughs, but instead became mindless scrolling. That's the cost. And what are you getting in return? Nothing that lasts. Nothing that fills. Just another reason not to feel. This is how you become alienated from yourself. Slowly, subtly, day by day. You don't notice at first. You just feel a bit more tired, a bit more scattered, a bit more numb. Then, eventually, you can't sit still without checking your phone. You can't drive without music or a podcast. You can't even stand in line without stimulation. Your nervous system is screaming for silence, but silence feels like suffocation. Because in that silence, you'd hear the part of you that remembers who you really are. And you've kept that part buried for too long. But here's what they don't tell you. This isn't your fault. You were born into a system that profits from your distraction, that monetizes your attention. Your disconnection is not a failure of willpower. It's a design feature. You were taught from a young age to equate stimulation with success, busyness with importance, distraction with value. And now anything that isn't productive feels like a waste of time, even though it's the very thing that might save you. Let's get even more uncomfortable. Think about what happens when you try to detox, even for a day. The anxiety, the phantom phone vibrations, the urge to check, refresh, re-engage. That's not boredom. That's withdrawal. Withdrawal from a system that kept you from thinking, feeling, knowing. And when you step away, it doesn't want to let you go. Because when you unplug, really unplug, you begin to remember. You remember what it felt like to watch your own thoughts unfold without interruption. You remember how powerful your imagination used to be before it was replaced by endless scrolling. You remember what it was like to feel time not just pass through it. And that memory is dangerous to the system. If any part of your soul woke up during this journey, type in the comments, "I'm ready to return." Speak it, declare it, and let that be your turning point. Because a person who remembers themselves is a person who can no longer be manipulated, a person who can no longer be sold cheap distractions in place of real purpose. That's why reclaiming your attention is the most rebellious act you can commit in a world built on distraction. But this isn't just about phones. It's about the entire culture of hyperstimulation, the pressure to always be achieving, the glorification of hustle, the addiction to updates, alerts, news cycles, and the illusion of urgency. Every second you're consuming, you're not creating. Every moment you're chasing novelty, you're losing depth. And depth is what your soul is starving for. You were made for stillness, for depth, for reflection. Not for this. Not for an existence made of sound bites and dopamine crumbs. But before you can reclaim that depth, you have to see clearly, not just how distraction happens, but why you keep choosing it. And that leads us to something even darker, even deeper. Because underneath the distractions, there's a wound. A wound the system taught you to ignore. A wound that's been running the show all along. And in the next part, we will explore how this wound, hidden beneath your productivity, your busyness, your endless engagement, is quietly dictating the course of your life. Are you ready to face it? Let's keep going. You've probably heard it before, that every addiction is rooted in pain. But what no one tells you is that pain doesn't always come as a dramatic trauma. Sometimes it's quieter. Sometimes it's the pain of not being seen as a child, the pain of always having to be strong, the pain of never being allowed to just be. And because that pain feels unbearable, you escape, not once but over and over, until escape becomes your personality, your routine, your survival mechanism. You're not addicted to your phone. You're addicted to not feeling. You're not addicted to content. You're addicted to numbness. And this is the wound you've been carrying, the fear that if you stop, if you slow down, everything inside you will come crashing down. That if you face the silence, you'll be overwhelmed by everything you've spent years avoiding. And maybe you're right, but what if that crash is the beginning of your healing? Carl Jung believed that what you avoid controls you. He wasn't being poetic, he was being literal. When you suppress emotions, you don't destroy them. You bury them in your unconscious and they begin to shape your behaviors, your relationships, your worldview. They become the invisible hand guiding your choices. That's why you keep ending up in the same arguments, the same emotional traps, the same cycles of burnout. It's not fate. It's the echo of unprocessed wounds. And you know it. You can feel it. It's the reason you get defensive so quickly. The reason you overthink every small comment. The reason silence from someone you care about feels like abandonment, even if they're just busy. These reactions aren't random. They're not personality quirks. They are pain. Pain looking for resolution. But here's the truth. The soul doesn't want to hurt you. It wants to free you. It brings the wound back to your attention not to punish you, but to give you another chance to heal it. But healing doesn't happen by staying distracted. It happens by turning inward, by being with what you've tried to run from. Think about this. Every time you avoid feeling your sadness by opening a new app, you reinforce the belief that your feelings are too much to handle. Every time you bury anger under a fake smile, you tell your body that your truth is dangerous. And over time, your body starts to believe it. That's why so many people today are anxious, exhausted, sick, even when their lives look fine on the surface. Because carrying unresolved emotion is like holding your breath. Eventually, you suffocate. Kierkegaard called this the despair of not being oneself. You wear masks, you play roles, you do what's expected. But inside, something is dying. And that death isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it shows up as boredom, as numbness, as the inability to feel deeply, even when something beautiful is happening. You laugh, but it doesn't land. You cry, but it feels mechanical. You're present, but not really there, because part of you has gone into hiding, and that part is where your soul lives. And the wound, the one you've been avoiding, is the doorway back to that part of you. But walking through that door takes more than courage. It takes honesty, radical honesty. It means admitting that not all of your success came from passion. Some of it came from fear, that your kindness sometimes hides resentment, that your confidence is sometimes armor, that your independence is often a defense against disappointment. These aren't shameful truths. These are human truths. And when you stop judging them, you start healing, because the wound isn't what ruins you. Denying the wound is. So how do you begin to face it? Not all at once, not with force, but gently, patiently, like meeting a child who's been hiding under the bed for years. You sit with it, you breathe with it, you let it speak, you don't try to fix it, you just let it exist. And in that presence, in that raw, honest stillness, something ancient inside you begins to shift. You begin to realize that pain doesn't kill you, it clarifies you. That the grief you buried was love that never got to be expressed. That the anger you suppressed was your spirit fighting for its boundaries. That the shame you carried was never yours to begin with. And here's the miracle. The moment you stop escaping, the wound begins to transform. It becomes wisdom, compassion, depth. You start to see others differently, not as enemies or threats, but as wounded people just like you. You soften, not into weakness, but into power. The kind of power that doesn't need to control because it understands. The kind of power that doesn't react. It responds. But don't be fooled. This isn't the end. This is only the beginning. Because once you stop escaping yourself, you'll start feeling something else rise. A hunger for something more. Not more noise. Not more success. Something real. Something that touches the eternal. And in the final part of this journey, we will go there. Into the sacred silence, where your soul finally remembers why it came here. Stay with me. The real breakthrough is just ahead. And then comes the moment you've been unknowingly preparing for your entire life. The return. The return to yourself. After the distractions, the numbing, the avoidance. After the confrontation with your wounds and your buried truth, there comes a silence. Not the silence of fear or escape, but the silence of arrival, of finally coming home. This silence is different. It doesn't scream. It doesn't chase you. It waits. It welcomes. It holds space for you to breathe, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You are no longer running, no longer trying to outperform your pain, no longer selling yourself for scraps of validation. In this silence, you don't need to be impressive. You just need to be. And in this stillness, something ancient wakes up inside you. It's not a new part. It's the part you forgot. The part that remembers your essence before the world taught you how to hide it. You begin to feel moments again, not rush through them. You begin to hear your thoughts, not drown them out. You begin to sense your body, not punish it, not control it, but listen to it like an old friend. This is the sacred center, the place beneath your identity, your story, your wounds. The place that Kierkegaard called the self in relation to the eternal. You are no longer performing for the world. You're conversing with your soul. And that conversation is not loud. It's tender. It's quiet. It comes in sighs, in tears, in deep, knowing stillness. You realize that healing was never about becoming someone else. It was about unbecoming everything you were never meant to be. It was about letting go of the noise. Not because the noise was evil, but because it was never you. The chase for constant stimulation, for approval, for distraction. It was all armor. Armor forged in a world that taught you your soul was too much, your silence too dangerous, your presence too disruptive. But now you know better. Now you remember. You remember that your presence is your power, that your silence isn't empty. It's full of everything the world tried to take from you. Clarity, dignity, depth. And with this, a new kind of hunger is born. Not for more, but for real connection, real purpose, real peace. This hunger will change everything. You will begin to choose differently, not from fear, but from alignment. You will stop saying yes when you mean no. You will let people misunderstand you rather than betray yourself. You will slow down, not because you're lazy, but because you've finally remembered what matters. And in this new way of living, something miraculous happens. You stop being driven by pain, and you start being led by presence. This is your rebirth, not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. You are not the same, and you will never be the same, because once you've seen what's real, you can't go back to what's false. Once you've touched your soul, no amount of distraction will satisfy you again. So if you've made it this far, I want you to know something. You are rare. Most people turn back at the first sign of discomfort. They choose the known over the true. But you didn't. You stayed. You faced the ache. You walked through the fire. And now you carry a light that no one gave you, because it was yours all along. Let that light guide your next steps. Let it remind you, in every dark moment, that nothing outside of you will ever complete what is only found within. Let it be the reason you rest without guilt, speak with truth, love without fear, and return to your soul every single day. If this message reached you, and if even one part of it echoed something you've always known but never dared to say, I invite you to leave a comment below that says, I'm ready to return. Not just for me to see, but for you to affirm, because your words have power. And when we speak from the soul, the world changes, one awakened voice at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying present. Thank you for choosing the path few are willing to walk. I hope you continue. Not because the journey is easy, but because it's true. And truth once found is the only thing worth carrying forward. Until next time, keep walking, keep feeling, keep remembering who you really are.